Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andresa.
So in today's episode, everyone, we have Julie Holly. She's been an investor for over 15 years, and she's done a ton of different things in investing, but now her focus is apartment syndication. What I love most about this episode and what I love most about this theme is in order to sometimes grow and expand and speed up, like so many of us want to do, you kind of got to slow down and get really connected to what's important to you. And that's what we really focus on tremendously with Julie today, giving some great tips, ideas, and strategies around how to do that for yourself.
And the biggest challenge is the mindset, right? Because we all are high achievers and we like the speed. We like the lot of moving pieces going on. And for a lot of people, slowing down means failing. And we need to reframe that. I need to reframe that. We all as a community need to look into it and see if it applies to you. But the point is that when we are doing that, we are rearranging our life, our business, and therefore that is going to speed up the growth, the scaling, or whatever you want to do. So I encourage you to listen to this episode and look around your business. Where are the areas that are not serving you, even though they are in 100 miles per hour, but they're not serving you anymore? And how can you also slow down your brain so you can be really, really work from your best self? Your cup is full and you're serving the people that you want from your best self. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was an episode that we can go on and on for a long period of time, but I hope you get a great gold nuggets in order to take your business to the next level. Enjoy.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andresa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show, where we're all about, right, Andresa, empowering women to live a financially free and balanced life. Mm-hmm. And as you like to say, whatever balance means to you.
Yeah, right? Because, we probably have so many definitions about balance. And we don't want to piss people off when we say balance. They're like, I don't believe it.
We're going to keep saying
whatever it is. Okay, so that's what your definition. That's good. Whatever it is to you.
That's right. We just want to piss people off. That's our goal in life. No, we don't. Of course not. But it is. We created this community 4 years ago with the intent and the purpose that we wanted to, empower women, support them, create this global circle of women giving and getting what they need to take their investing business to another level, but quite honestly, their life to a different level, not to a different level, like more achievement, but in a more holistic way. That is what we stand for. That's what everything we do. Obviously, real estate investing is our core, but our world and our life and our selves are much more than that. And that's what we'd like to cover here. And that's what we're all about. And we have an amazing guest for today to dive into that topic. Not only is she, as you heard in her intro, a very active investor, but she's also got such great insight into more than just that piece of it. So Julie, thank you so much for being on our show. Thanks for sharing your time with us today in our community.
Oh my gosh, seriously, I've been looking forward to this. I think I logged on like 10 minutes early just because I'm like, I just can't even be late. I'm so excited to be here.
We appreciate you. Andresa, what is coming up? As we always like to do, we like to share something coming up, some sort of tip or life lesson or blunder, whatever it might be this week. But what's coming up for you before we jump into Julie's story?
So when people wholesale a deal or sell a property and they post pictures of the checks.
Oh yeah.
You know that?
Oh yeah.
Like what the hell is going on, right? So that's the way that they flex, right? They flex, they're getting it, whatever it is. So this morning, as I was dropping my son off, I was like, I should record this. This is how I am going to flex. That I get to drop my son off at school every day, and I can look at him, pull the window down and say, ciao, Lorenzo, have a great day. Every day. I don't care if the other kids, a couple of years from now, he might like, Mom, can you please don't do that every day?
He's not going to turn around like Lorenzo. Yeah. Who's Lorenzo?
Yeah. No, I want it. Everybody knows because I do it every day, every time. And every time that I rolled that window down to do that, I was like, I am so thankful to have the privilege to be able to flex and be here with my kid and pick him up from school every day too. And I told him, look, those yellow buses there, hey, I mean, if you want it, it'd be great. He's like, he said to me, I like when you drive me, mommy, because then we can talk, we play games, and we have this, it's not a long drive. It's like 5-6 minutes.
Love it.
But I get to do that. In real estate was a tool that allowed me to do that. So for the women that are listening here and are like, oh my gosh, somebody closed on this $1 million house or closed on this property, that property. If that's how they value their success, good for them. That's all good. No wrong or right here. But I encourage you to also think about other things that are also valuable to you. To me, it's time. Being in charge of my time and being able to do what I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, that's my goal. So whatever, fits your goals. Don't get frustrated or attached to how people are flexing their stuff. But I also want you to think about what it is that you're proud of, and not like, okay, what is it? What is that gives me energy every single day? And if you don't have it, let's create it together. Lean on this community here, and let's create something that you're really excited about and proud to.
Yeah, love that. I love that. So tomorrow I'm going to be putting a big check on Facebook, and I'm going to tag you on Andresa now.
Tag me.
No, but what you're saying makes so much sense. It's like, what do we value, and how do we celebrate that, and not that we need to do it or you need to drive your son, but you get to. I love that. It's just a great way to change our language, right? And our because you do get to, and I get to do different things. And I'm sure Julia as well. It's like, we get to do this. This is pretty cool. And it feels good when you say it like that. So I love that phrase.
Yep.
All right. Without further ado, Julie, let's get into your story. We always like to kind of kick things off by asking, what propelled you to get involved in real estate investing?
A lot of things propelled me, but I just have to go in and say, this is the first year I get to drop my kids off at school. And I have had 2 separate careers that have been woven together over all the years between actually being the teacher at school and being a real estate investor. And so this is the first year my kids are back in school and I get to drive them. And I hear you, Andresa. That is exactly how I feel every day. My husband's like, I can take them. I'm like, no, I love this. This is a privilege. Like it's, yes. Oh, I love carpool line. I love this line. Like this to me, it's like, I get to, be part of their lives in this whole different way. It fills my bucket so much.
I love it.
So,
sometimes I feel that I want to get out of the car and ask all those people at 3 p.m. when I pick him up, what do you do? What do you do? Should we all connect? What are you guys doing over here? I feel that I want to do that.
This is a really good idea, by the way. Really good idea.
They're probably self-employed or entrepreneurs, and they could potentially, if you're raising money, be potential investors.
Exactly. I'm doing that today.
Right, that would help you.
This is a new meetup group now. Okay.
Oh
it's called Carpool Lane.
Exactly. Carpool Lane. Exactly.
We started it here. Yeah. So, I have, going back to my story, like I said, I have 2 careers that I've woven together, and I really just see how God's done that throughout my entire life. And sometimes we take for granted and we forget that everything that we are created with is like, sometimes it takes time to grow and to incubate. Right. And so, excuse me, but I was becoming a total witch when I was in real estate in my mid-20s. I was very successful. I had a ton of money, and I didn't know how to carry myself in the sense that I didn't have the support. There wasn't YouTube. This is a long time ago, people. there wasn't YouTube. There weren't podcasts, and I didn't have the right mentors surrounding me. And who I was becoming in that space was not who I wanted to be. So I'd already graduated college early, spent time teaching in the classroom, and had entered into real estate. And that's my family lineage also. So I have family lineage in education and real estate. So it makes sense, my pedigree, right? But I left. I said, you know what? Hard stop. I don't want to become this person, and I don't know how to stop it. So I'm going to go back into education and have the safety, still investing, still doing that, but not so active. And when I was in real estate, that was like residential sales. And that's a totally different deal than multifamily real estate. So, through that process, I'm proud of myself and if, for everyone listening, like sometimes you have to take a hard stop and you go, who do I want to be? And when you know who you want to be, sometimes you just press pause and say, no, stop, full stop. That's not the direction I want to go. And until I can figure out how to get where I want to go, this train stops here. And I'm really glad I did it. Sometimes I look back and I think, golly, especially with all these young investors, I'm like, if I could have just had the right mentor and figured it out back then, golly, my world, would be different. But that's okay, because this is the journey that I was supposed to walk. So I'm content with it. But fast forward, my husband and I invested in our heart and passion coming from, and I think a lot of women can relate to this, as coming from a very bad marriage that I had in my early 20s. It was emotionally and verbally abusive. It wasn't a good situation at all. And it was very different than the world I had grown up in. And I, as the first person in my family lineage to get divorced, and it took a lot of courage to take that step. And in taking that step in my very early 20s, like those years of the 20s, everyone knows that's like, you learn a lot about life, but taking that bet on myself, that was like, first step is I'm taking a bet on myself and I'm going to protect myself. And then going into the real estate world and saying, hey, I'm full stop. I'm going to bet on myself again. I had a bet on myself to go into it to begin with. I was a single person with a mortgage payment, going into the unknown. So like constantly being willing to bet on myself has paid off. And I have a beautiful, amazing husband, like beautiful meaning, like he is very handsome, but that when you have a second chance life, it's just extraordinary. And I value that, to the moon. We've been together now for like 18 years. But when we got together, we had a vision. And that vision was, let's just do something simple. We'll buy and hold, houses along the way, and we'll just live a modest lifestyle. And we want to serve people that were in my situation. I had a hard time finding a rental. A lot of people do have a hard time, and you're discombobulated and you're confused and your world is already falling apart. And so it's like, how can we support women or other people who are going through challenging, difficult times, so that they can really, like get their feet back on their grounds and have a quality place to live. And that's what we did. So we went through that process and self-managed. It was great. But then we had kids. Right. And we all have kids in this space right now. Right. And so, kids change your world, and I'm self-managing, and I started to feel very uncertain about, I don't want to what if that resident doesn't renew their lease? And what if this? And it was all on my shoulders, the management component of it. And like, what if something happens? I know we have the reserves, but I allowed, and this is a learning component also, is I allowed all those what ifs to really swirl in my head and cause a lot of insecurity and doubt about what we were invested in. So my husband, we decided, let's find something different to invest in. Okay, let's do that. I mean, we're into reinvention. I kind of like Madonna. Madonna is always reinventing herself. I don't always agree with what she believes and says, but I love how she reinvents. I'm like, great, let's reinvent our investing strategy. And in doing so, as digesting Bigger Pockets and the other podcasts, Monique Halm, another, female ambassador, she's on, first woman I ever heard, and she describes apartment syndication. Literally changed my life. Literally. So I'm driving up to the gym and I hear her and I'm resonating with her voice. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I house hacked. Oh my gosh, I did that. I didn't know those were the names for that. I've done all that. Oh my gosh. And I love teaching and helping and everybody winning. This is where I need to be. And I have not departed from that path ever since. And that's how ultimately I landed in apartment syndication. Absolutely amazing what one podcast, what one person and their experience can do. But that mindset component that I was, kind of dipping into was I was allowing, right? We made that investment class shift because I was allowing my mind to really run amok. And so since then, I've become a very voracious reader. I run a book club. and, reading quality literature, working with a coach, really just taking control of the mind. There's even a Post-it note in front of me that says, like, what should you be thinking now? Like, we just need to be thinking. And even in my faith, it's always like, hey, take control of your thoughts. So
Awesome.
learning how to do that was super powerful. So I know that's like a lot. I saw like the Pulp
So let's
Fiction
dissect
story.
that. I want to start dissecting it, but based on your story, the power of slowing down in order to speed up. Because sometimes we hear a lot of stories of real estate investors are like, oh, they got started and they started doing 1, 2, 5, 10, and then they did that, and they did that they scaled, they built a team, and like this very like linear going up curve. But I think it's we're painting a picture that it's not a lot of the reality that we see out there with a lot of investors. And then for the new folks, they have this imperfect expectation about it. And when things don't go right, that they need to take a step back, or they need to slow down, right? With the crazy market, a lot of people had to be quote unquote forced to slow down. It's like, I'm failing, right? And I totally relate to you, because when I was going through my divorce, we were on the peak of the real estate, but that got frozen. Basically, I was like, okay, how can I get out of the situation, find a rental, even though we had rentals, but I didn't want anything to be related to anything. Find a rental, move into a rental, and then like, okay, how can I guarantee an income for myself and make sure I have food on the table for my son? And you guys might be thinking, oh, Andresa, but come on, you had all those projects. Yeah, but it was all tight, right? When you have all different projects going on at the same time and you're breaking up from that relationship, I did not want any of my income to be tied to that specifically. So what I did, I took a quote unquote step back and said, I need to find a steady income right away. And I was already in conversation with a local friend of mine who is a commercial developer, because in my head, I was like, I am fighting against getting a job again, right? It's like, you know better. That's not how it is. So the way that I made amendments in my head was like, you're going to do that if you're learning something new. So I learned a ton about real estate. And this friend of mine one day, we worked together, and he's like, I shouldn't be paying you for all of this. I was like, you got my point. I'm here and I'm getting paid to learn all this great stuff. But my point to it is that propelled me to other things. So as you're saying, you never know if it is a new connection, a podcast, or what can really propel you to move forward. And reading your bio, you said something that I wanna bring it up. Said, I slowed my real estate investment journey down because number one, I didn't believe in myself. Number two, I was terrified of making a mistake with other people's money. And number three, I didn't understand the power of partners. Wow. So we can dissect those things. Like,
big time.
How did you deal with, like, I didn't believe in myself? How did you overcome that piece itself?
I think this is so prevalent. So I coach now, and it's just so prevalent amongst all people. It's a human condition where we just doubt ourselves and we have this comparison syndrome. I started taking myself through working with my coach. I started taking myself off the books of, like you were talking about earlier. Hey, these people could be flexing in their particular way. That's their way. It's not my way. And starting to see myself and valuing myself. Like, let me just hard question everyone listening right now. When's the last time you treated yourself the way you treat your friend? When's the last time you talked to yourself the way you talk to a friend? Like, so I realized that I wasn't treating myself in a good way at all. And here's another byproduct of that, is that you don't treat the people that you love the most in the best way possible, more than likely, because the people we love the most, we end up treating so much the way we treat ourselves. We see them as an extension of ourselves. And so we end up mistreating them because we're like, well, that's how I treat myself. I love you too, And so, learning to identify those elements and to stop them in the tracks, and learning to, not just have a vision board, but I have an accomplishment board. And then I have on my phone, like, because we've all accomplished things and we're like, yeah, whatever, big whoop-de-doo. And, oh, whatever about the trophy or whatever about that, actually those things are really important because they're tangible reminders that not that that's where my value comes from, but it's a reminder. I did that. So I can do this next thing. Liz and I are both raising capital, looking at reaching out to investors, raising capital during, the holidays. It's like, I've done hard things in the past. I can do hard things now. So you look to those things that you've done in the past. And so like learning how to rebuild one's self-worth. And that's what I had to do. I had to learn how to value myself and to see myself the way other people see me. And that is so challenging because unfortunately, we're really hard on ourselves. And who do we spend the most time with? We spend an entire lifetime in this warm body of ours. And my daughter pointed out, we were talking about this last night, and she's like, Mom, I mean, you sleep in your body, you shower in your body, like you do all these things and you're kind of, she's 10, she's like, and you're by yourself. And yet, so like you definitely spend the most time with just yourself. I'm like, so how about we take time to get to know who we are, and how about learning to accept? So I've learned to accept who I am, for better or for worse. It's a double-edged sword. I've got a lot of personality. That's a double-edged sword, and like receiving that and learning how to temper that and how to really empower who we are. But it really comes down to looking in the mirror and saying, I like you. It's hard. It's worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, it's making me think about a few things. I think, and obviously speaking personally, I think people, but especially women, we busy ourselves. And it's easy to busy ourselves. I mean, there's plenty to do. There's plenty of things to get involved in. But I also think it's a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say it's an excuse, but it's a way to we're busying ourselves so we don't have to get quiet with ourselves. So then we don't know what we want. And it's this whole like loop.
You were saying that serves a purpose to
it
be
serves
busy.
a purpose. Exactly. I was sharing this on another episode, but I am part of a session, and she said, it's 2 words you got to get out of your vocabulary. And I was like, oh, I probably say both of those before she said anything. She goes, overwhelm. Damn it. Say it all the time. And she goes, busy. I said that less, but I do say that a lot. She goes, get those words out of your vocabulary. They don't serve a purpose, and it actually just perpetuates more of it. So my point in saying all that, so Andresa is like, oh, I'm gonna get a text from Andresa tonight. I thought you were saying that she's gonna hold me accountable to those 2 things. But
I will.
You totally will. And I'm like, oh man, I should have said that to the whole podcast community either. But no, it is very powerful. And I think we busy ourselves. I can busy myself because we don't create the space to know what we even want. And that's very, very important in terms of the path of acceptance, right? So did you create a practice for yourself, Julie, like AM routine or anything routine like or habit that you put in place to help guard that, if you will? Because if you're someone who likes to busy themselves, and these women, a lot of women in our community like to achieve and grow, they wouldn't be part of our community if they didn't want to expand on some level. Our members, same thing.
Yeah.
You got to you got to create this like way to help yourself. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, if you're looking to drink less, you should probably have less alcohol in the house, right? It's like, these are all ways to help ourselves. So what guards did you put in your life, or what rituals or habits did you create?
Oh my gosh. Big time, Leah. So you guys saw, I have my goals written out, and I worked on my goals, and I had a mentor in my life that has just been really instrumental in shaping me and actually took me through goal setting. This is our 2nd year doing it. And that first year I had never valued setting goals, because I think this will resonate with a lot of y'all, is that it's something that it's just lofty. It's more of a dream. It's more of, am I actually going to get there? And then I'm just going to feel like a failure. So why do I want to set goals? I know where I want to go, and me knowing in my head where I want to go is enough for me. And actually, it's not enough, and you're not going to get where you want to go. And I had to sober up and come to that reality check, right? Because my mentor paved the path before. It's like, that's where I want to go, how I want to do it. And so, okay, this is your practice. And what I learned in that practice of setting goals that changed my concept of goal setting was that every goal that I set was actually extremely meaningful, and it had practical things attached to it. So it was, I mean, I literally have social media goals this year, and because you can't be everywhere and be fantastic, right? And so it's like, these are the places where I want to be. This is why I want to be like in this particular group. This is what I expect to contribute. This is what I expect to receive. And so it's like, everything that I have is like extremely clear. And that's a huge part of everything, is like really becoming clear on what you want. And the clearer you are on what you want, the easier it is to say no to other things, because it doesn't align. It's easier to say, oh, well, that doesn't align with where I'm going. It's not a bad thing. And that's what the other part is, like, there doesn't have to be this right, wrong, good, bad, like, that's just not where I'm going. And I'm headed this direction. So y'all have fun going to do whatever that is. I need to, make sure I'm staying my course over here. It meant saying no to a lot of social events for a while, because I simply needed to put in the time and do the reps. And there's a reality behind that. And what's interesting is that I changed so much. I changed so much throughout my journey. And you start to realize that now maybe you don't even fit in some of the same places that you fit before, because now you're a different person. So when you talk about practices, I do have a morning routine, and I can see the difference because I fell off my wagon of my morning routine. And so I had this own personal journey, I think, over the summer. It was really interesting. And a lot of people would be like, I'm like in my morning routine religiously. And on my podcast, I have like how to run a good morning routine. And so I mean, like, you hear all this all the time, but you don't always hear people say, yeah, I fell off the wagon and I questioned it and I doubted it and I tried something different. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I wasn't getting the results. So I'm like, there's power in what I was doing. I'm going back to that because I really liked the trajectory and the momentum that I was getting by, waking up. I read my Bible, I, write out affirmations and gratitude. And then I go through a planner. I love Brendon Burchard's planner. Not everybody does, but it asks really good questions. And yeah, they're the same freaking questions every single day. And every single day I have different answers. It's ridiculous. But I do want to share is, I was reading this book, Stillness is a Key by Ryan Holiday. It's I'm obsessed with Ryan Holiday, but when you're talking about where you're putting your time, where you're putting your energy, I was reading this just this morning and it's extremely relevant. He says, always think about what you're really being asked to give, because the answer is often a piece of your life, usually in exchange for something you don't even want. Remember, that's what time is. It's your life. It's your flesh and blood that you can never get back. And it goes on, but like, that's the power of reading good books to make you think in deeper ways about that takes time a lot deeper.
Yeah. And it kind of like, if start connecting the dots, right? Like being busy is what does that mean? Saying yes to a lot of things, which leads to overwhelmed and things like that. I am a big fan of Dan Sullivan, and one of his books, The Gap in the Gain, he talks about the success criteria, and they mention about this I think it's Jamaican team that did like the boat, and they were training, and the day before the competition, one of the guys was like, oh, I just want to go out and like get a burger. And then they use the phrase, will this move the boat faster? And the answer is no, it will not move the boat faster. So the answer to the activity is no. So from that perspective, we can all look, as you were saying, Julie, to what will move our boat faster? What will get us to the next deal or the next goal, whatever we want to live. Because if we don't have those criterias, we're just giving our lives away and getting whatever people want to give it to us, and we don't get a chance to get that time back. So for all the women that are listening and feeling, yes, overwhelmed because their time is limited, I think it's as the theme over here, slowing down to think, where is the time being spent, with whom you're spending your time. Because the practice of meditation, nothing more, nothing less, is to slow down your brain so you can, I think it was Ariana Huffington that says, if you have if you don't have 20 minutes to meditate for 1 hour, because she believes that
Yes.
it is just a way to speed up your journey. In terms of real estate, you pivot a couple of times, and you mentioned about leveraging partnerships. So when you are right now, I'm sure you have a clear vision of what you bring to the table. But in terms of partnerships, talk a little bit with us about the challenges that you face with partnerships and the benefits of having this.
Wow, I was watching people go faster than I was going. And I am thinking, I know I'm smart and capable. I know I can do this. So why am I not? Oh, they're linking arms with other people. And I'm not. I'm trying to do it all. I'm a woman. I just want to do it all. I can do it all, can't I? And the reality is, sure, you can if you want to take your time, Julie, but in reality, it's way more fun to partner up with people and to have people filling in the gaps. And so it took time for me. I value people so much, and I love all people, but to find people that have the right alignment, that have a shared philosophy, you're trusting someone with your reputation and they're trusting you with theirs, right? When you are partnered up. And so, who can I be a good ambassador for as well? Because we're representing something together, and I want to make sure I represent that person well, and that there's somebody that I'm like, when I'm behind people, I'm behind people. So I want to make sure I'm partnered with people that I am 100% behind, so that I speak with confidence. And so it took a little bit of time to find those people. And then once I found those people, it took us we just went under contract finally, after working our butts off trying to break into a new market. But that was interesting and character building, and brought us closer together, as a team, to say, this is who we are, this is what we're about. And we don't back down, we don't compromise on our criteria and such. So it was a challenging experience, but a great experience. And having people that, like when you're working within that team framework, having people that are, holding you up. I had a really challenging other deal that I had worked on, and it presented a lot of challenges for me. And so, this other team that I work with was just able to lift me up, and then they saw the different side of me.
What were the red flags that you learned from the other deal?
Yeah, no, the other deal it was a fantastic deal. It was my first cap raise, and it was a train wreck. And a lot of people don't want to go around talking about that, even though a lot of people really struggle with their first raise.
Yeah.
If everybody's honest, I don't mind. I'd rather serve people well and say, you know what, it's better to move forward and struggle your way forward and be going forward than to just stay on the sidelines. And so, that was my reality check, was, oh, wow, I have some other work to do. And all things happen in the right time, and now I have 2 deals that I'm working on, and it's going really well. So, you having people that can help not just shoulder the business portion and the real estate portion, but people that appreciate you as a human being and can encourage you when you hit those difficult times. Because guess what? When you're in a partnership and you're in a deal for, 3, 5, 7 years, whatever it is, you want to be, I want to be working with people that I can show up as my authentic self and, professionally speaking, but still authentic, and know that it's not like it's a support group. It is a business group. It is a team, but you want to be able to say, on the professional level, when they supported me and encouraged me when I was struggling, it's like, this is great. This is what a team does in my estimation.
Yeah. And it takes time to get there. I mean, from a syndication perspective, what role do you play in on the team? And how did you gain clarity around that role of that being a good fit for you? And how did you discover your teammates' strengths? In other words, did they come to you and say, hey, we got a gap here, this is where we can need help? Or I'm curious how that came to fruition, because I think a lot of the women we're, in our community, want to scale and they want to get into potentially larger projects. They just don't know the roadmap and how to do it. So curious to hear your experiences as you scaled into larger multi, and what your role was and how you kind of made sure the puzzle pieces fit together.
Yeah. Okay. One, I was too rigid. I do want to throw this in there and then go into that. And that is, I was way too rigid on my concept of, I really need to know these people super deeply well. And it's like, I had to kind of breathe a little bit and have a little more trust and faith. But actually through meetup groups, I had actually connected with these other investors who were interested in the Columbus, Ohio market, which is one of the markets that I wanted to break into as an investor. And I knew them from different places. So, and they didn't know each other. So this is Christmas time in 2020. And I send a text, or I call each of them individually and I say, hey, I happen to know a few people, and everybody has complementary skill sets. Every single one of us. I said, at the worst case, even if I'm not part of this, I need to connect you. I would love to connect you guys up. So we all hopped on a phone call and hit it off, and could see the synergy, and you could see how we were all complementary. So it was a matter of, and I am a natural connector. I love connecting people and putting them together. And so for me to be able to see their skills and what they were bringing to the table and where I would fit, where they would fit, it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And that's where it kicks off. And where I fit is, I love investor relations. I'm a people person. That educator in me is always alive and flourishing and wanting to serve and help people. And so I create a lot of content, that is, towards educating investors to empower them so that they can get started. They don't have to stay stagnant, and they can have the courage and confidence to take that very next step. And that might be investing in their own small multi, that might be investing in their first syndication. I work with a lot of people where it's their first syndication, because they feel that level of trust. Like, you've taken time to educate me. You're not just about getting my money. You want to make sure I understand, and that you're, I invest in them, and it goes back around. And so that nurturing, I also really, like a lot of people, this is silly. It's an important role, but it's a small role. But due diligence, it's an important role. It's a fun role. I like it. I like
Critical.
it. And I'm actually stepping into asset management, putting my toe in the water in a deal that I'm in. That's a very safe space to do it. So the position isn't fully on my shoulders. Basically, I'm on the table. I'm part of the asset management team, but I'm going to be there learning. And so that's like you were saying, Andresa, is like, hey, if I go work for this developer, I can learn something new. I don't know. I like managing assets, small assets. I've had experience and I've been very successful, but I don't have experience managing large multifamily on my own. But if I can kind of go in and be part of that and understand, now I can have the confidence, because I'm very particular about how you're posturing towards your investors. There needs to be certain levels of experience, and how my philosophy, right? We should have certain levels of experience being represented, just so that, it is taken care of, and the investors can have full confidence in what's going on. So just by nature of being able to be part of that, I'll have a lot of confidence moving forward and playing that role in the future.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's so important. People don't go and raise 20 million and have never even invested in real estate. These expectations people have are crazy. It's just literally steps. And it's like,
Mhm.
and we have to honor the process, and we're not going to be fully confident in something that we're a part of, but we don't maybe have 15 years of doing. But the fact that like you have experience, not you, but I'm saying women in general. And then like you build upon that experience, you build upon that confidence. It doesn't happen overnight. But just to say, my point in saying that is just to say, well, I'm just not going to do that because I don't know syndication like an operator that's been doing it for 15 years. No, you don't. But you can know it the way you need to know it and be part of something. So there's so many ways to get involved in. My point is so many different ways to get involved in new asset classes. We don't need to know it all. We just need to be part of a team that someone on the team does know the asset. And we need to know what we know and then expand from there and know our value, because we do have value. We always talk about that. I just think that's critical. And the expectations are unrealistic, though. I think a lot of women have expectations of like feeling they need to know it all before doing anything. It just, no one, I mean, if Andresa and I started Investor Community, we would never started this. That was the case.
That's just it. Like we can't know it all. And there's always going to be somebody else ahead of us. Like, it doesn't matter. So that's why knowing where you want to go is so critical. It's like, well, you're in the middle of a 20 million raise. I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. And, I have friends that have, $30 million funds, and I look at them and it's like, that's really amazing that you manage and operate something of that magnitude. And does that mean it's not a value statement? And so I think a lot of times we look at other people, we see it as a value statement on ourselves, and it's not. It just says, hey, that's really great. And that's my role model. Now I'm going to look to Liz, the Invest Her community, and I'm going to say, that's so cool. I'm going to get there too. Guess what? They just kept taking the steps forward. Yeah. And wow, if I can even link arms with some of these people, I'll get there a little bit faster and I'll understand things. But we never understand it all. And real estate is all about bringing together the creative minds. It's one of the most creative spaces. It's one of the reasons I love it so much, is that nothing is ever the same. And the solutions are always very creative. Can I hear an amen on that? There is not a cookie cutter for the solutions that we definitely use. A team sport.
And it really goes back to the whole place we started here was acceptance and slowing down so you can reconnect with a lot of those things. So it's been amazing, Julie. Definitely have to have you back on because there's a lot more to go through here. Want to be mindful. Where can Elise listening learn more about you and connect with you further?
I'd love to invite everyone to the back door of my website. The only way you can get there is by just, hearing this on a podcast. And that is just go to julieholly.com. Holly is HOLLY. And if you go there, it's the very soft side of my page. And it just gives you a rundown of my investments. So you can access all of my brands, which is, 3 Keys Investments, the Conscious Investor Podcasting. And if you're interested in joining a book club to help yourself level up, it's a 5-week book and networking club. So over 5 weeks, you develop real relationships with people. And I can tell you a lot of business came from the networking club last year, because you actually get to know people as you hear them talk about books. You're not talking business, and you hear who they are, their heart, their soul, their philosophies.
Love it. And all this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one is, what's the most powerful book you ever read?
Ooh, okay. I have to give 2. I read my Bible every day. I love it. It changes all the time. I'm like, these words just change. This is great. And then after that, I would say High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard was a huge game changer for me. And I could go on. There's actually a book list at julieholly.com that you can download if you guys want all of my favorite books.
Awesome. Second question is, what's the most transformational routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
Oh, that's interesting. I think sticking to my routines. It keeps that forward momentum. So it's all of the routines combined, being dedicated and disciplined to them. I would be lost without them.
Awesome. The last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
There are so many. I'm going to actually use a contemporary woman that we know, Camilla Jeffs. She absolutely inspires me. We've been friends. I was the first podcast that she came on, and she's absolutely inspired me because of how she's run her business. I've known her since the very beginning, and just to see how she has progressed and her disciplines and dedication and who she shows up as a person is extraordinary.
I love it. She is one of our mentors. She teaches Syndication 101, and she's just a ball of joy, right? She's so authentic, and her being in the same circle as her is just a privilege.
Definitely.
Awesome. So Julie, thank you so much for being on our show. Thanks for sharing your path and some wonderful nuggets of your process and how your journey unfolded. And excited to see what comes and all the good stuff happening for you. So thanks for making time to connect with us in our community.
Pure joy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.